Is this thing on? Uh, Next video in the desire series. Um, this one is on what is lust. I'm going to be doing a video and Substack on something that is really affecting men, at least. Sort of, I'd be biased in this one in that I suffer from it too, so I'm trying to sort of reach out to others who are going through similar problems, but not necessarily all men are suffering from this. So I'm not sort of making a statement and saying, oh, but it is a significant number, and I'll be doing a video related to it. But this video is on lust. What is lust? To me, what lust is when a desire, and it's mostly considered a sexual desire, but not necessarily a sexual desire, but it's when a desire is so impactful that you want something so badly that you are willing to do behaviors that aren't considered ethical. So, and this is why sex is sort of one of the ones that lust comes up when, because sort of it's viewed more ethically when it's in a sort of long-term focused committed relationship with the purpose of procreating children, not necessarily always for the purposes of having children, but in a long-term committed relationship is sort of viewed as more the ethical form. And then there's sort of other forms that include more people, but for the most part, it's more ethical when it's one other person, and that's it. And you're sort of trying to remain loyal to each other. The reason why it's considered ethical is because jealousy has a tendency to create a hostile behavior and sort of doing things that will increase jealousy, which is sort of having sex with other people, is viewed as sort of a form of derogation. It's viewed as sort of insulting the other person, especially if there isn't sort of a mutual understanding. If there isn't sort of a situation where, hey, we're gonna sleep with other people, but we're both equally compatible at obtaining other partners, equally capable of obtaining other partners. I think when sort of jealousy tends to rear its head in those sort of non-monogamous relationships is when one partner is significantly more capable at attracting sexual desire than the others. Women are generally a lot more capable at attracting general desire than others, but there are circumstances where actually it is the men in the long-term relationship who are more capable at attracting sexual desire. But generally speaking, it is more often the women who are more capable of attracting sexual desire. And so sort of it's the men who are getting sort of left behind in those circumstances, in those non-monogamous relationships. So this is sort of a form of unethical behavior that is fueled by a want. And wants aren't necessarily bad themselves. It's just sort of how we respond to our wants that sort of turns into lust. And so sex is sort of considered the top one there. It's because I guess we have different words for other times where wants become unethical. Greed, that's when a want of material becomes unethical. Envy is a want of comparison. becomes unethical. Wrath is a want of revenge becoming unethical, or a want of justice, because revenge is sort of wrath, sort of more similar to wrath than it is to justice. So we have different words for when various forms of want become unethical, and that's why lust is more considered the sexual version. So is lust bad? By the argument of it being unethical, yes. But the thing is that it's hard to control lust. It's hard to control all these other desires that we have as human beings. And it is important that we control them to remain pro-social. It is important that we control our wants in order to live in a society where people trust each other and trust that people aren't going to do things that'll be harmful to others or harmful to their family, harmful to society. It is necessary that people sort of adopt a social contract of some sorts in order to be participatory in political processes, but participatory more so in social processes that encourage further trust into the cultures that they live within. And tools in order to do so often are sort of religious ethics, but not necessarily entirely religious ethics. There can be non-religious ethics as well. Other tools involve sort of civic pride in sort of a national identity, and sort of other varying forms. And how it relates to lust is they often sort of prescribe what are sort of the normative versions of sexual behavior. For example, there are laws in many countries prohibiting non-consensual sexual behavior. That is sort of the state, but also the social contract saying that non-consensual sexual behavior is wrong. And it is wrong, because you're harming another person physically. It also has a tendency to lead to sort of other violent acts to another person, and that is very wrong as well. Another version of what is considered ethical sexual behavior. Some countries have laws prohibiting bigamy, meaning being married to multiple people at once, whereas some societies actually are okay with bigamy, where people can be married to multiple people at once. And that varies culture to culture, and the ones that prohibit it believe that bigamy is a form of sort of deception and social manipulation and sort of basically unethical behavior. And then the ones that promote bigamy believe that it's a tool for sharing resources, and people who have the resources to secure multiple marriages should be allowed to do so. There's debates, and so what is lust? Lust is sexual desire that is deemed unethical, and it varies from culture to culture what forms of lust are the unethical ones. There are universal ones like non-consensual sexual behavior, sexual behavior with minors. Pretty much across the world is viewed as unethical, and I agree with that. They are unethical, very unethical. So why is this sort of worth commenting on in the desire series and tying desire to ethics. Well, in order to build sort of what is the best form of social relationship, I sort of postulate that monogamy actually is one of the better forms, because with monogamy there is less likelihood of people of sort of lower socioeconomic classes from being excluded from relationships. Typically when there's sort of bigamy, polyamory, polygyny, and then polygamy, those cultures, typically those without socioeconomic status are sort of cast out and sort of tend to have been placed into lower sort of social power, and less social power, and then less sort of power for their own personal intimacy. So cultures that sort of go towards monogamy, one person, they tend to be more egalitarian over time, and that's partially related to monogamous, the value of monogamy. Polyamorous versus polygynous, sort of polygamous. Polyamorous would say that women could also sort of female identities, feminine identities, they can also participate in seeking multiple partners. The thing with polyamory is they have a tendency to eventually just go back to polygyny. They have a tendency to just have the males as the only ones doing and the reason why this occurs is because the males with power decide, hey, I want to be able to sleep with other people, but I don't want you to be able to sleep with other people. So let me sleep with other people. And then, yeah. And typically in those cultures, those men don't not only have more power, but they try and influence to get themselves more power. And so those cultures are very hierarchical and very oppressive towards women, but also oppressive towards men who don't climb the hierarchical status ladder. So, and like even in some of those cultures, historically, they castrated men in order to sort of say, hey, let's limit your sexual desire, but in order to give myself more power, I'll need you as a soldier, and we'll give you a bunch of money. So your sexual desire will be taken away from you, but your material desire, let's expand that. Let's make that even more and give you riches and give you things that will make you more stronger. And it happened in sort of I would say pre sort of Magna Carta cultures, and castration, I think, was a practice up until like the 18th century. So it happened, and it was a form of oppression. So monogamy is the most egalitarian form of relationships. Anyways, these are just my thoughts. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.